So a few years ago, after I retired and I had the time to play it, I bought the trilogy Mass Effect, game 1, 2, and 3 bundled together. It had been finished for a couple of years before I got to it, by the time I got to it. And it featured the greatest single video character ever created, Commander Shepard of the Alliance. Trust me when I look at me. Trust me when I tell you, if you're ever fighting collectors or reapers, you want him leading your platoon. Okay, so game 1, it was great. It was wholesome, except for violence, kind of like in Star Wars type violence. Bad guys attack you, you got to attack them. And you attack through command. You played Commander Shepard, okay? And then I played the second game. And this is leading to a Christian principle. Then I played the second game and I noticed immorality had started to creep in. You could avoid it by playing, Commander Shepard in a good Christian way, which is how I did. But it was still there. You could romance women aboard the ship. And then in game 3, I'm walking around the ship one day as Commander Shepard, and one of the male crewmen hit on me. And I realized, oh my aching back, they'd built in same gender sex into 3. I couldn't look Commander Shepard in the eyes. In 2 short games, they had moved from a wholesome platform to, Sodom and Gomorrah. But I justified it by saying, but I'm not taking any action in that direction. I'm avoiding all of that. But it was going on around me. And I realized, you know what? That's like a guy Christian sitting in a strip club going, yeah, but I just have a Diet Coke. I don't think any evil thoughts and I avoid the dancers. Okay, but you're still in a strip club. So that's when and this is the point of it. And that's when I realized I can't support this kind of thing. I could support Commander Shepard because he's a good guy, but if they put him in Sodom and Gomorrah, what can you do, So then I found this, pluggedin.com. And that's what I want to bring to your attention briefly. It's a Christian group, and I believe it's an offshoot of Focus on the Family. And they watch the movies, they watch the TV shows, they play the video games, and they tell you what's in them. And then they let you make your choice. They don't tell you what to watch, see, or play. They tell you what content is involved in that movie, TV show, or video game, and you can decide for yourself. Now, I'm not associated with them. They don't even know I exist, but I certainly know they exist because I've used it numerous times. And it's a great resource. It really is, because it's a struggle. It's a struggle in this, especially in these days, to find something that is worth your time and money. All right. In the Olivet Discourse, the Lord said something remarkable, and we don't understand how remarkable it was. He said that temple was coming down, and you could tell the disciples were shocked. I didn't realize why the disciples were so shocked until I read Josephus. Josephus explains it. Well, he doesn't explain the Olivet Discourse, but he explains why the disciples would have been so shocked because of the attitude Rome had towards that temple. They did not have an antagonistic view of that temple. They didn't think it was stupid or foolish. They had a great respect for it. As a matter of fact, Augustus Caesar and his wife, they sent donations to it. Several Caesars sent animals to be sacrificed on behalf of the empire. They had a strange fascination. Nobody was threatening that temple. And I think that strange fascination began early on. Josephus accounts a very strange but interesting story. Right after General Pompey of the Roman Empire conquered them, and I believe it was 63 BC, so about 6 decades before Jesus was born. So he's in Jerusalem, and when the transition of power is taking place, and General Pompey announces, hey, you know what? I'm going inside the famous temple and taking a look around and see. And the Jews were like, well, no, you can't. Gentiles are not allowed in there. And only priests are allowed in the sanctuary. And only the high priest is allowed in the Holy of Holies. You can't go in there. And General Pompey said, okay, I don't think you understand. I, General Pompey, am going into your temple. You wait here. So he went in. Now, it was customary for the Romans to take some of the treasury from the country they just conquered and take it back to Rome, parade it around. They had big pageants and celebrations about a new client state entering the Roman Empire, and the treasury of Israel was inside the temple. Well, a few minutes later, General Pompey comes back out, and his attitude had changed. He comes out and tells the people, okay, I should not have done that. You need to get in there and cleanse the temple from my presence. Can you do that? And they said, yes, we have the rituals and the things that we need to do that. He said, do that now. And the next morning he left immediately for Rome without taking even one coin out of that temple. Now, we don't know what happened in there. We could probably guess something happened, but you better believe that when the brave General Pompey went back to Rome and told that story, and I'm sure it made it all the way up to the senators and Caesar himself, they were like, there is something to this, isn't there? And that's why they treated it with such respect. Even during the siege in 70 AD, we don't put enough emphasis on what happened in 70 AD. Preterists put too much emphasis. We don't put enough emphasis. But Titus, right before they were going, it took them 2 years to breach the wall. When they finally had breached the wall and he was about to send in his troops, he went to the front gate, got as close as he could safely get, and yelled out to them, because one of the worst human beings of all time, John of Gischala, or Gischala, however his town is pronounced, that he came from in Israel, he was one of the rebel leaders, and he ended up using the temple as his fortress, his own personal residence. He was terrible. And Titus knew he was in there, and he said, look, tell John and his men, I will wait if he will come out of the temple and relocate. He can set up a fortress somewhere else in the city. That way, the temple does not have to be destroyed. He did not want that temple destroyed. John and his men said, come and get us. And Titus said, all right, have it your way. And that is how the temple was destroyed. So that was a very curious statement in the minds of the disciples, because who would tear down the temple? They had the protection of the Roman army because they were a client state. They belonged to the empire, so an outside force was not going to take on the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire had no intention of destroying it. They never even threatened to tear it down. As a matter of fact, they had a special accommodation that they made with the nation of Israel that they didn't allow with anybody else. Now, normally what happened was, when they conquered a country, they would set them down and go, okay, who do you worship? And the country, the leader would tell them, okay, this god, this god, this goddess, this goddess. And the Romans would say, fine, keep worshiping them. And we may dig a couple of them ourselves, but we have our own gods and we want you to honor them too. Well, instead of me telling you how the Romans handled that situation, let the text-to-speech theater players tell you how the Romans normally handled that very delicate theological situation.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am General Cassius Maximus, and I am your conquering general. Let me be the first to say, welcome to the Roman Empire. Now, which one of you is the leader?
That would be me. My name is Pug.
Pug, tell me about your gods. Who do you people worship?
Well, let's see, we worship Bazil.
What is this, Bazil, the god of?
He is the god of fistfights, dirty jokes, poetry, and, oh, shoot, I forgot the last thing.
Shrimp.
That's right, shrimp.
He sounds delightful. Who else do you worship?
Babette. She is the goddess of drunken orgies, dessert forks, pocket change. And, shoot, I forgot the last thing.
Street tacos.
That's right, street tacos.
Impressive. By all means, do continue to worship Bazil and Babette, but we would also like you to honor our gods. To that end, we will build a temple complete with temple prostitutes. We will also place statues of our gods throughout your countryside and leave you with explanatory literature about who they are and what they do. Any questions so far? Yes, Pug.
Let's jump back to that part about temple prostitutes. When exactly will you be building that temple?
Right after we build your aqueduct.
What does the aqueduct do?
It brings fresh water straight to your towns.
Does it come with prostitutes?
Well, no.
Build the temple first.
Excuse me, General, does the temple come with male prostitutes too?
Yes, it does.
Build the temple first.
Build the temple first. Build the temple first. Build the temple first. Build the temple first.
Yep. I mean, if you were a pagan nation, adding a few extra gods and goddesses to your pantheon, well, that isn't a big deal. But it would have been a big deal for Israel. And the Romans knew it. And they didn't force their gods on them. They said, you can continue doing your religion your way. We will not interfere. And they stuck by that, with the one exception of Caligula. When that idiot came along, he decided he wanted to put a statue of Jupiter inside the great temple in Jerusalem. But he was, guess what, assassinated before he could even begin to accomplish that. Everybody else said, leave the Jews alone, let them worship. They had this strange respect for not only the God of Israel and the temple of Israel, but they were blown away by, look at them, they only worship one God, and look at the structure. They have all the laws written down, and look at the laws. I mean, religion to the pagans was a reason to have, sex and drunken parties. It was totally different with the Jews, and they respected that. They kind of had a fear and held it a little bit in awe. So that was a strange statement for the Lord to make, but here comes the interesting one, and it's very interesting, especially for us today. So after he mentions that Jerusalem will be surrounded by armies, and they're going to come in, and they're going to slaughter with the sword, which is exactly what they did, and lead a bunch away into captivity, which is exactly what they did. By the way, it was real bad news if you were a tall, good-looking Jewish boy, because you were separated from everybody else and taken back to Rome to perform in the Colosseum. Yeah. So Jesus then tells us, and Jerusalem will be trodden down by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So a couple of years ago, I looked at that and I said, well, we can see that that's been the pattern over the last 2,000 years. But didn't that stop in 1967 when they regained control of Jerusalem? Aren't the Jews trotting down Jerusalem today? And if they are, doesn't that mean the times of the Gentiles ended? But if the times of the Gentiles ended, how come the partial blindness that is on Israel, that's keeping them from seeing their true Messiah, that never was lifted? And it was a problem for me. And I tried to figure out, how do I attack this? Do I cop out and say, well, maybe the Jews that are living there aren't really Jews, they're Gentiles? I don't want to go down that road. You end up going down that road. You're going to go down that road with a bunch of crazy people. You are. And I had absolutely no information whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the information that I found completely disagreed with that idea. So no, I believe they are Jews. Plus, if you say they aren't Jews, then Israel hasn't come back together as a nation yet. So no, I rejected that. That's an easy, cheap way, but I didn't want it. So what do? And then the idea was, well, wait a minute. The prophecy was made about the Jerusalem of Jesus's time. He said this Jerusalem, the Jerusalem that he knew, would be trodden down by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles were fulfilled. So I had to find out, well, if we looked at a map today of modern Jerusalem, it's grown to 500,000 plus people. What was the Jesus Jerusalem? Where would we draw that circle? Well, that was easy to find out. It's Old City. All scholars agree with that. Historians agree with that. Old City, what is known as Old City, where all the Christian tourists go initially to see all the things, was the Jerusalem of Jesus's day. Historians tell us it had about a 25 to 50,000 population, somewhere in there. Small, because it was a walled city. Now, it would expand during feast days, of course, but its standing population was somewhere between 25 and 50,000. That area we can pinpoint on a map. It's right there. The next question was, well, is there something unusual about the population of Old City? How would I find it? Well, fortunately, that was easy too, because the state of Israel has many demographic reports of Old City, plus the most recent census report also will break it down for you. Listen to this. This is astounding. The Jerusalem of Jesus' day is trodden down by Gentiles to over 90%. Over 90% of the population of Old City, Arabs, Gentiles, non-Jews, still today. Even though the Jews have acquired Jerusalem, Gentiles are still trampling it down. As a matter of fact, the state of Israel has tried on several occasions to induce Jews to move into the area, but all they can get are a few college students who come in and then they leave when they get their degree. It's an amazing 2,000-year-old prophecy that continues today. But that's going to change because one of the very first events that takes place as we move into the tribulation is the fullness of the Gentiles. I've shown you this little short introductory timeline to the tribulation before. That is a perfectly accurate series of events because it was promised to us by Paul and John the Revelator and an angel in the 7th chapter. Paul told us the fullness of the Gentiles had to come in before the blindness was lifted off of Israel. And we see that happening with 12,000 from each tribe of Israel being sealed by God. And they're called first fruits because they're the first ones to come in. Eventually, Paul said, all Israel will be saved. And the angel tells us they have to be sealed before the earth, the sea, or the trees can be harmed. That means you're looking at the next event could very well be the fullness of the Gentiles coming in. Now, here would be my dream scenario, because that means the Arabs have to go. My dream scenario is this. The Arabs convert to Christianity. I mean, they're right there in the town that Jesus walked and did so many miracles in and died in. It wouldn't be, well, yeah, it would be surprising. But that's and the rest of my little dream scenario is they would become Christian and they would go on a rapture because the rapture might happen on that day. It's a possibility. I can't guarantee it. I'm not guaranteeing it. But I'm guaranteeing this. Something is going to happen and it's going to be big because those Arabs are moving out of Jerusalem. The moment the fullness of the Gentiles comes in, as predicted by our Lord, Gentiles will no longer be trampling down Jerusalem. Something big is going to happen to move 40,000 Arabs out of that area. But it's going to happen. It stayed in place, that amazing prophecy, for almost 2,000 years. But the moment the fullness of the Gentiles comes in, that's it. Things are going to change, and they're going to change dramatically, and it's going to make headlines. It's going to be a big story. Remember what we see right after the seventh seal is opened, which is early, not late in the tribulation. If you don't understand that, watch some previous videos of mine. I'll explain it. What do we see the angel do? He takes a censer filled with fire, throws it to earth. It has the prayers of the saints, and there are thunderings and lightnings and noises and an earthquake. It matches perfectly in the sense of a time position to match the fullness of the Gentiles coming in. And I'm hoping that earthquake, like it is everywhere else in the book of Revelation, going to produce a rapture resurrection event. And it's going to happen early on, if it happens. But what will happen, guaranteed, is the fullness of the Gentiles. That event is looming. It could happen tonight. It could happen before I edit this video. Well, that's impossible. That's impossible. That can't be happening. Dave? But I wrote you out of the script. You're not there anymore. You're gone.
I wrote myself back in. That was the miracle that I got. I can write myself back in even if you kill me. Again.
But that's impossible. How can you...
That's why they call it a miracle, Stan. Oh, there's somebody with me who wants to say hi.
Well, who?
This is Commander Shepard of the Alliance.
Commander Shepard? But he died in Mass Effect 3 at the end. He died. How can he...
That's the other part of my miracle. I can also bring back any character that's ever existed, Stan.
That's incredible, Dave. I mean, Commander Shepard, I haven't played the game in a long time, but it's sure good to hear you. It really is.
Hey, you okay? How
Yeah.
you been?
Good, yeah.
You seem good.
Yeah.
You look good.
Oh, well, I walk a little bit and work out a little bit,
You still think about what happened to your dad?
My dad? I don't think
Why are you working at a place like this?
this is my house, Commander Shepard. I don't quite.
Oh, don't be nice to him, Commander. He's the one who killed me.
Yeah, look.
My partner here doesn't have much to say for you.
Oh, so I can assume that you're going to take his side in this? Am I?
Don't assume anything. I need to know what happened.
Okay, well, he started it. Okay, because he wasn't going to give me any of the imaginary money he was about to win. Okay, not a.
Oh, so that gives you the right to shoot me at point-blank range?
Was that wrong, Commander, to do that? Was I wrong?
Only you can really answer that question. That's the point of free will.
Boy, he went first-year seminary student on me. Didn't see that?
Then he rewound the tape and blew me up with a bomb.
A bomb? How big?
Big enough to blow me out of the script.
Yeah, see, there, I tell you.
Murderer!
Cheapskate!
Wait.
Cheapskate!
Everybody calm down.
Plus, he killed my wife.
You big, stupid jellyfish.
Look, I was mad and I got carried away.
Sounds like you owe David an apology.
You're right, Commander. I do owe Dave an apology. Dave, I'm sorry, and I'm especially sorry about killing your character wife.
Well, kind of worked out okay.
How?
I wrote myself in a younger, prettier wife.
What?
Say hello to Tammy.
Tammy?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tammy.
You wrote yourself in a character trophy wife? Are you?
You have got to be kidding me.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
What did these people do to bring this down on their heads?
You must be Commander Shepard.
I have to go. And I'm not even going to pretend it was good to see you again.
I don't blame you, Commander. I didn't intend for this all to happen. I really didn't.
That's what evil counts on. That it's hard for good people to imagine.
He went second-year seminary student on that one. Yeah, that's a good point. But, listen, Dave, are we good?
Yeah, we're good, Stan.
Okay, good. Commander?
Owning your mistake takes guts. But you have to get over it and move on.
Thank you, Commander, for everything you've done.
Does anyone want to see me dance?